What's going on, everyone? So, as far as the Lakers solving their center position, more likely than not, is probably going to have to come through trades, as I've talked about. But you've seen a common trend, right? That the Lakers at least are looking at and trying to acquire. And that has been a young center that they can kind of have, continue to grow and develop, and kind of be in a position for not just the next few seasons, but like kind of more long term. You look at Mark Williams, try to get Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren, Ngagwe, you heard recently, was a target on their list. And so it would make sense that the centers that the Lakers are likely to target this upcoming offseason would be younger as well, right? And you're kind of hearing that, right? There are reports from Eric Pincus that, they might kind of look to fill their center void with a younger big. He brought up Day'ron Sharpe and then Jericho Sims as well as kind of the two names that could come in. Look, I've talked about both of them very heavily. Look, I'm a big fan of Day'ron Sharpe, his rebounding, his toughness, the size that he has. That he doesn't really have the height, but just the weight on him, the physicality on the inside. I think Day'ron Sharpe's might never be better than a backup, right? Just like a guy that you put in there, rebound, and bang with the big boys. Like, he's a guy playing Denver. Hey, just go, right? Hand him the keys and let him just be a high motor guy that is just, a bull in a china shop type thing, right? Like, that's how I kind of look at, Day'ron Sharpe and with the Lakers. But he is a restricted free agent, so going in and acquiring him makes things rather complicated, right? Because you'd have to pull off a sign and trade, which then hard caps you. I don't think the Lakers are going to be a second apron team regardless, but if you needed to get into that, or you needed to do, make a move or something like that, like, it kind of just limits and hampers you in that regard. And then Jericho Sims is a guy that I really would like to see. He's a guy that I really do think makes some sense for the Lakers as just kind of I look at Jericho Sims in particular. I'll do a whole video breakdown of both Day'Ron and Jericho, but I look at Jericho Sims kind of as this untapped well that has only just the top's been discovered, right? It's just like you have so much more. There's so much depth to this well if you're able to really tap into it. Put yourself in great position. And so I look at Jericho Sims. I mean, the guy is a big, physical, hyper athletic center. I mean, the dude can jump out the gym. Right? On Milwaukee, you saw that more than you did even with the Knicks at times. I mean, there were times where Damian Lillard, literally, we could just get stuck and just throw it towards the rim, and Jericho would just go get it. Literally, just out jump everybody and go get it. The guy is a hyper athlete, right? And the thing is that like something that I keep talking about, and I keep emphasizing, because I do think it's important, and I really do want people to kind of I don't think the Lakers need a real super skilled big man. Right? I don't think they need some guy you got to dump the ball down to. He's going to work, crossing dudes up, step backs, right? Knocking down the three ball, doing all that. I just don't think you necessarily need that. I would love to have it. It'd be a great luxury to have, right? But I don't think that that's a necessity. I think it's a luxury, not necessarily a necessity. I think as far as the center position goes, the Lakers just need a guy that can be a lob threat, protect the rim, right? And provide some, interior presence, some interior just size, right? So a guy like Jericho Sims, I think, would provide that for you, right? He's not a guy that's, hey man, we just need a bucket, dump the ball down to him and let him go to work, right? You already got Luka turning back into a Saiyan, right? And, now he's getting full-fledged, ready to go. And I think you're going to see an absolute monster. And it'd be nice to have a guy like a Jericho Sims, or, even like a Day'Ron, or, any of these guys. Can you find, I've talked about it, can you find that young kind of athletic diamond in the rough? Right? Can you find that guy that's out there? And I do look at guys like a Jericho Sims as one of those guys. But, obviously Lakers, they're working out centers already. Talked about one of them, and Samson Johnson, right? So Lakers want youth at the center spot, right? Now you could argue, well, they have Jackson Hayes and Trey Jamison and Christian Coloco, right? But again, all those guys are kind of like your project bigs, kind of growing and develop, right? They're kind of guys that you stash out things and whatnot, right? Like there's question marks about them as like a starting center, and even like a Jericho Sims, I wouldn't want necessarily as my starter, right? Like and this is something that I've done. Like I would be fine with a Clint Capella and a Jericho Sims, right? Where you get a guy in Clint Capella that could kind of be your stopgap for a couple, 2 years or whatever, right? Bring him on board, vet, still one of the best offensive rebounders in the league, block the occasional shot, get you the occasional steal, right? Basically checks off all the marks that you want on your checklist, right? So I look at a guy like Clint Capella. If you can bring in Clint and then go with like a Jericho Sims, a young guy that, like I said, has that well that needs to be tapped. He's been really a product of, lack of playing time. Or if you can pull off a deal for Day'ron Sharpe, right? Maybe get Claxton and Day'ron, and that's your front court, right? And you just have Claxton as your starter and Day'ron as your backup, right? So you have that versatile, switchable defensive big man in Claxton, and then you got that big physical, right? Just getting bull in a china shop type of center in Day'ron. Could be fine, right? But that's what I'm getting at, is that, like, if you can kind of have that balance. But I want a proven, experienced starting center. And by experience, I don't mean necessarily, like has to be in his 30s or anything like that, right? Like, again, if you could get a Mark Williams or Jalen Duren or Walker Kessler or whoever, right? Nick Claxton. If you can get any of those guys, if you can get a guy via trade, which is why I keep talking about, like, the starting center spot is probably going to be via trade, right? The Lakers want a starting center. It's probably going to be via trade, unless they do decide to go like, okay, let's go with let's just kind of use this year as a stopgap year. Just go get a Nick Claxton, bring in a Jericho Sims, and then get a guy in the draft. And then there's our three bigs. There's our three centers that we're going to run the regular season. And, let's see if we hit on Jericho Sims, right? Because the potential's there over this next year or so, and if that Kessler becomes available for, a first, maybe we'll go make that move, right? And, because I've argued even, if you're the Lakers, do you kind of just like, because I don't believe you need this like super skilled big man. So if you're the Lakers, do you just kind of go, okay, let's go get this, a Clint Capella and a Jericho Sims, just using them as examples, right? Bring them in and then use all of our assets, use all of our players, use everything that we have to now go and trade and pivot for the guys that we need, right? Like, as far as like wing depth and bench depth and athleticism and shooting and, the 15 other things that the Lakers need to kind of fill out and round out this roster. So I don't hate the idea of the Lakers kind of pivoting in that direction and just going, okay, let's just kind of have this like stopgap year at the center spot and make sure we have some youth, right? And like I said, a Jericho Sims or a Day'ron Sharpe, and then, like I said, do you go draft a center or maybe continue to grow and develop, a Jackson Hayes or, a Christian Coloco or Trey Jamison or something like that. Maybe you kind of continue to use one of them as like the building block, as another development guy, right? But have that kind of balance. Look, if you can get a skilled center, I'd love one. Like if you can go get a Mark Williams, go get a Mark Williams, right? But I just want somebody that can just do the basics, right? Run the floor, be a lob threat, right? Play some defense, block a shot. Hey, if the guy is in anywhere within, 2 feet of the basket, that should be an automatic block, right? Like that's just what I want, right? Somebody a little more disciplined, a little better understanding. I think the Lakers they'd just be in really great shape if they can just keep it simple at the center position. I don't think that they need to go overboard with it. I like the idea of getting young, getting some athleticism, getting some youth at the center spot. But as far as the starter goes, you gotta get some experience. You gotta get somebody that's just again, you can get some youthful experience. You get a guy that's been a starter for 2-3 years, right? That has multiple years under his belt. Because you got to keep in mind, Luka's going to make any of these guys look great anyway. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.